Je suis avec Shelley Miller. Bonjour Shelley.
Bonjour.
You were born in Melville in Saskatchewan. Now you live and you work in Montreal. Why are you coming here in Quebec for work?
Well, I'm here for the Symposium.
Yeah.
And it interested me because of the theme this year, art and politics, because a lot of my work deals with political issues.
How you find BSP and the Symposium? This is your first time here?
My very first time in Baie-Saint-Paul, yes.
Yes. How you feel that?
It's great. It's a really, really beautiful town, very picturesque. It's a really nice setting as an artist to feel like I can really contemplate
Yes.
and think and focus.
This is your first time in Charlevoix?
Yes.
Yes. So the population, all the thing in BSP, you like it?
Yeah, it's still only been 1 week, so I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to having 3 more weeks in the area to explore and take in the surroundings.
Yes, yes. And since you're coming here, you have a time for making new friends in the Symposium with the other artists?
Yeah, definitely. It's also something that I was looking forward to at the
Yeah.
Sympo, is the
Yeah.
interaction with all the other artists.
Yeah, that's cool. Just for asking your career, you have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degrees from the Alberta College of Art and Design, and you have a Master's of Fine Art degree from Concordia University. For you, what's about this all Bachelor? This is really important for us to make your career right now?
For me, it was important to do a bachelor's and a master's.
Yeah.
I really valued the time that you have in school to really focus and to have the support of your faculty and the peers to kind of help you grow your own ideas and your art practice.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of value in doing that.
This is really what you want to doing for career since was you born, or the art was coming more later?
I feel like I was always an artist. I was always the kid in my classroom who won every art competition. So everybody else around me also kind of labeled me as the artist.
Yeah.
So growing up, I had a few other ideas for careers, but art was mostly the main thing I knew I would do.
And for the all populations coming here to see your station at the École Thomas Tremblay, what kind of pictures and what kind of style can find us?
It's very, very diverse.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see how 12 different artists have really, really different approaches to this theme of art and politics. So you'll see installation, sculpture, video, painting, sugar. You'll see everything really.
Yes, that's really cool. You ask a sugar. You have a project called In Situ, in public place with different materials, and you say sugar. What kind of sugar? Why you like this sugar for your work and your piece?
Yeah, I've been working with sugar in my art for 20 years. I like it because of its associations to taste and desire.
Yeah.
It's pleasurable, but for me it can also be associated to excess, excessive consumption. So I use it more to reference the idea of sugar coating something.
Yeah.
And I reference the history of sugar, which has always been about power structures. And a lot of the work I do looks like ceramic tile murals, like azulejos, but they're made entirely out of sugar. So it's a way to reference colonization and slavery that supported the sugar industry historically, but also to question new forms of oppression and power in society and ways that we sugarcoat things.
When you talk sugar, it's really special sugar. It's not the sugar table when people take for heat. It's the really special sugar for make that.
It's all edible.
Okay.
I make the tiles out of it's like a fondant. So it's gelatin, water, and powdered sugar.
Okay.
So it's just a sort of a special technique that I've developed. And then I paint on them with also edible inks. So technically it is all edible.
Yeah.
But it's also ephemeral.
Okay.
So for many people coming through, they're curious about how I preserve it. But I tell them it's meant to wash away and erode and decay, which is also part of the concept of the work.
This is hard for you to work with sugar, or it's really easy with the time?
I would say it's always somewhat of a challenge. Certain technical things I've gotten good at over the years, but because it's very dependent on weather and humidity, and so when I travel and do these projects in different countries, I never really know what I'm going to encounter. And right now, Baie Saint Paul is a lot hotter and more humid than I was expecting, so I'm managing the humidity as well.
When you begin to work with any kind of project, what the most difficult step for you? This is the start, this is the middle, the finish. What?
The start.
How you feel that? The start?
The
Why
start is always the most difficult because for me that's the incubation of the ideas.
Yeah.
And so for me the hardest is to really finalize the overall concept. Once I have the concept decided, then it's just production. So for me, production is sort of it's the labor.
Yeah.
But it's almost the easier part.
Okay.
For me, it's physical labor and it's time, but the hard thinking part is mostly done.
It's happened sometimes you begin to work with an idea, and on the process you change all overall you can take. This has happened sometimes?
I would say that the ideas might change by the very end, and then I take those thoughts and ideas into the next project. So I really need to see my project through to its completion, which means it erodes and decays, before I can then evaluate what I've learned and what I might want to change or do for future projects.
In your material, we talk about sugar, but what is the other material you take in from all your creation here?
Everything is really with sugar for this project.
Okay.
I'll be installing it on a wooden panel.
Okay.
Mostly working in the studio for the Symposium.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, we'll likely put it outside.
Okay. So for what you're doing here, the sugar was the masterpiece.
It's the main project I'm working on.
Okay, it is the main project. All right. Your work represents wealth and power really to decay. I can see. For you, this is a little bit a dark side of art or something like that.
I think it's just showing that there's often a darker side of many things.
Yeah.
And I like sugar to send that message because people have mostly only positive thoughts about sugar. It's very pleasurable. It's something that's so everyday and common, and we use it almost every day. But I think it can be like a good metaphor of many things that we get so accustomed to, we forget to ask where it comes from.
Yeah.
And there is a darker side to many, many things that we don't often think about. So I like using sugar because it's also something that people of every age can identify. Even small children, will come to the work and ask questions. So I think it's a good way to sort of bring a lot of different people into thinking about the work.
I see on your website most piece of your hearts with blue color. Blue color, this is your favorite color, or it's the basic color for make all you want?
I began doing the blue and white tile reference in Brazil, and it was a specific reference to a type of ceramic mural common there called an azulejo, which is also very common in Portugal. So I used that to reference the Portuguese colonizing Brazil and the early foundations of the sugar industry in Brazil. Often there's also imagery of ships in these murals, which is used as a symbol of pride in colonization and exploration. So I wanted to subvert that image of pride, and that's why the mural decays and falls off the wall, because often there is not only a positive side of those things, but also a negative side, when also slavery was the primary means to support that sugar industry. So I began using the blue tile reference in Brazil to specifically reference the Portuguese colonization, but I continue to use it because many of the colonizing countries all have a history of blue tile somehow in their culture. So France, Britain, the Netherlands, Spain, Portugal. So it's more of a general reference to colonization.
Okay. If we talk about your inspiration, this is your traveling, this is your family, your activities, or this is all that finally, or what?
I think my biggest inspirations have come from travel.
Yeah, yeah.
From traveling to many different countries and sort of getting a different perspective of the world, and then being able to see my own country and culture from like an outside perspective. So travel has definitely been the largest influence.
Your created project are about historical image and reference. Are you have a passion for history?
Yeah, I've always been very inspired
Yeah?
by history. I think primarily because of the way that history repeats itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting for me to reference history, but then so that we can also question how these things are recurring.
Yeah. This is history about all of them, or specifically history some
I would
different
say
kind?
different projects
Okay.
reference maybe different types of history.
Okay.
And depending on where I'm traveling, sometimes that affects what's most inspiring.
Okay, all right. And when during the symposium, the history of BSP in the symposium can help you in the future to create some project?
Probably in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that, coming here, I didn't know a lot about the place.
Okay.
So I didn't want to create a project that was specifically about BSP until I had spent more time here.
Yeah.
But I think everything influences everything in the future.
Yeah.
So maybe something in the future will come out of it.
How much time you take for create a piece start to the finish?
1 month is the bare minimum
Okay.
time that I usually need.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
For production. A
Okay.
little bit more maybe for the concept also.
Okay. So 1 month. This is one piece.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So if you want create example 3 or 4 piece, so you think 3 or 4 months for make that?
I typically just work on one at a time.
Okay.
So if I want to make a larger piece, then it would
Okay.
take 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
So
if
it's more about size.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
if you take 1 year, how piece you can create in 1 year?
Well, I work in a lot of different fields. I also do permanent public art commissions.
Yeah.
I do different types of projects.
Okay.
So I've never done just back to back sugar murals.
Yeah.
Because they're also a little bit dependent on climate and weather.
Yeah.
And since Canada has, a short summer, if I want to do them year round, then I need to go to other countries.
Yeah.
So, but normally I only do about two or maybe 3 a year.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Of the sugar murals.
Yeah, that's cool. Sometimes different people take an inspiration about the weather, the rain, the sunny. This is your kind of inspiration too sometimes?
I like the way that the weather interacts with the work.
Yeah.
It's also why I often do work outdoors in public spaces.
Okay.
In more of a street art style. So I put the work up in public spaces on walls, and then I just document the process. So whatever happens, happens. If they wash away in 2 days, it's 2 days. If it's 2 months, I just go back frequently to document it. So photography becomes an important part of the work also.
Yeah, yeah.
But I like working in that way also, just to see all the different people that can stumble upon it, that they're just walking down the street, not expecting to see art, and then they see this sugar mural. So it's often fun to also stand back and just watch people discover it and to see their reactions.
Yeah. You have a creation called Cargo in 2008. We can find on the Symposium website. It's the picture with the sugar, make with the sugar. And all artists in this career have one piece was on heads up by the other piece. With Cargo for you, this is a heads up in your career. This is most popular.
Probably it was the largest mural
Okay.
that I've done, and probably the most time consuming because there's a lot of detail in terms of the painting. It was also kind of a 2-part project. It was with an exhibition through Mois de la Photo during that year. So the first part was the sugar mural that was up, and then I took documentation of it every day and then created a digital composite image, which then became a photo billboard that was up for 4 years in the same spot that the sugar was.
Okay.
So it sort of had a bit of a longer life in that capacity.
For the future's time, what your biggest project coming? What's your biggest project you're thinking about your futures?
Thinking about travel again
Yeah?
more.
Okay.
I have a trip planned to Portugal in October.
Yeah?
I'm going to be presenting this sugar work that I do at a conference that's specifically about the azulejo
Yeah?
and its place in Portuguese history and culture. So it'll be, I'm a little bit of a wild card in the mix of people who are mostly art historians.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking to hopefully gain some good connections in Portugal. And then I plan to go back to Brazil also in the next year.
Okay.
So looking to sort of expand
Yeah.
more globally.
So we can say now more idea on the table for
Always.
production, so other
Always,
things,
yeah.
other things, always.
Always ideas, always ideas.
No, that's a good idea. Have more project in the life. Shelley Miller, thank you. Thank you so much, and all the success for your futures anywhere you're going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.